Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we finally have a brand new familiar in the game that isn't a Vanguard familiar. We have the 24 karat gold Labubu, or in this instance it is called Yuruzu. I think I'm butchering that. Here we go. We have a brand new familiar. It looks pretty decent overall, so let's get into how to obtain this familiar. To obtain this familiar, you just simply need to go to the anniversary shop, scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you can purchase this familiar for 10,000 cakes. Very simple, very easy to farm up a bunch of these, and I would say there is a good reason to do so. Let's get into going over their passives. Yuruzu's first passive is called Yuruzu. This increases money generated by farms by 9.8%. Now this can roll between 2 and 10% money generated. And the second passive is 24 karat gold. This can roll any element in the game and can be between 5 and 10% damage. Overall, this is looking like a crazy familiar, especially for the money generated, but also that damage stat is pretty good for any sort of newer player that doesn't have any sort of crazy familiars. You can get a 9 or a 10% damage roll for an element, and it'll be pretty good to slap onto any unit until you start to work towards getting decent burbs in the game. Alright, next up is our Corruption 3 mid-roll range to better. We have a min-roll range of 8.4% gain. That is 80% of the max roll with a C3 increase of 30%. This gives us a 10.9% on the low end, and then all the way on the high end is a 10% roll with a 50% increase for a 15% gain. Overall, I feel like if you are corrupting, looking for something that is at least a 8.4% gain or higher, and then from there slap a corruption crystal on it, try to see if you can get that perfect 15% money generated, and you'll be good to go. But yeah, that is the Corruption 3 range. Pretty decent. Overall, how I feel about this familiar, it is a very good familiar, especially with the damage that you can get and also the money generated for two separate things. Firstly, let's go over the money generated. Personally, if you do have a really good silly fairy still, I feel like that is better for your speedwagon, but this familiar is really good for takaroda just because he already has a high base money gain that you can get there. When talking about the damage stat that you can get is between a 5 and 10% damage roll. It's not the craziest amount of damage that you can put onto a unit, but especially if you are a brand new player or just don't have any familiars in general, this is a good familiar to go for, trying to hit an element for a good roll as well, just to kind of introduce yourself and use this familiar as like a stepping stone towards getting better familiars in the future. You can get a 10% buff, and if you're lucky, you can go for a Corruption 4. Try see if you can get to another element roll of the exact same elements, and you can get all the way up to a 20% if you are very lucky. That is very unlikely though, but if you can, that is a pretty solid familiar to get and have until you start working towards grinding for burbs in general. Birb of course will be a lot better than this, but this is a fairly solid familiar to go for if you actually like legitimately do not have any other sort of damaging familiar in the game. So yeah, that's how I feel about this familiar. Pretty solid familiar. I would highly recommend going for him, but that is this video. It is a very simple and short one. I appreciate it if you guys have watched this far through the video. See ya.